Every single day, the global economy is humming along, powered by this incredibly complex network of ships, right? They're carrying everything from cars to crude oil. But what if I told you that a huge part of this entire system depends on just a few incredibly narrow passages of water? We're talking about the world's strategic choke points, and today we're going to zero in on the big one, the most important one of all. So let me ask you this. What's the one spot on the map that's both the world's most critical economic artery and its most dangerous military flashpoint? I mean, a single location that's both the key to our energy supply and a place that's permanently on the edge of a major conflict. That's a crazy paradox, right? Well, it has a name. And that name is the Strait of Hormuz. So, what is it? It's this tiny strip of water, but it's the only way for ships to get from the Persian Gulf out to the open ocean. It's basically the one and only gateway for some of the biggest energy producers on the planet. And when you look at the numbers, they're just staggering. Get this, something like 21 million barrels of oil, that's about a fifth, one-fifth, of everything the world uses in a day, sails right through this one tiny spot. So you can imagine any disruption, or even just the threat of a disruption, sends massive shockwaves through the global economy. Energy prices could just skyrocket. This place isn't just important, it is without a doubt the world's energy lifeline. So the big question is, what makes a simple strip of water so incredibly important? To get that, we need to peel back the layers and understand the powerful concept that's really at play here. It really boils down to three things: geography, vulnerability, and, of course, control. Okay, so this is the core idea right here. A choke point gets all its power just from what it is, from its physical geography. Think about it. It forces all the traffic, whether it's commercial ships or military vessels, into this super tight, really predictable path. And because everything is so concentrated, it creates this natural weak spot, which is also a huge opportunity for anyone who wants to control it. Here's a simple way to think about it, but it's a really powerful analogy. Imagine a huge city, but there's only one single lane tunnel to get in or out, right? All the cars, all the trucks, all the supply chains have to go through that one tunnel. Whoever controls that tunnel, well, they basically control the city. That's exactly what a choke point is, but on a global scale. Now, in military jargon, these global shipping routes have a name. They're called sea lanes of communication, or SLOCs for short. You can think of them as the arteries of the entire planet, carrying all our trade and letting navies move around. And the choke points? Well, they're the most critical, most sensitive, and yeah, the most vulnerable spots in that whole network. And this idea gets right to the heart of centuries of military thinking. Guys like Alfred Thayer Mahan, a famous naval strategist, figured out that real power on the seas wasn't just about having the biggest battleships. Nope. It was about controlling these key sea lanes. Basically, dominating a choke point is like having the master key to the world's oceans. You can open the door for your friends and slam it shut on your enemies. Okay, so now that we've got that theory down, let's bring it all back to Hormuz. Because all those abstract ideas we just talked about, power, vulnerability, control, they stop being abstract and become very, very real and honestly pretty tense right there in those waters. Hormuz is really the perfect storm of all these strategic factors rolled into one. First, you've got the geography. I mean, it's just 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. The shipping lanes are so tight that ships become pretty easy targets. Economically, like we said, it's a total energy superhighway. Then there's the politics. It's smack in the middle of a bunch of regional rivals. And all of that, of course, brings in the military. You've got this constant, heavy presence of navies from all over the world, all trying to protect their own interests in this tiny, crowded stretch of water. And this really lays out the fundamental tension that's always at play in a choke point. It's like this constant game playing out 24/7 with two totally opposing goals. So, on one side, you've countries whose main goal is to ensure transit. They want to keep things flowing, so they're doing naval patrols, setting up missile defense, constant surveillance, anything to keep that lane open. But then, on the other side, you've got actors whose potential goal is to deny access. They might be planning for a naval blockade or using sneaky tactics like naval mines. They develop what the military calls A2/AD, or anti-access/area denial. Think long-range missiles that make it just too darn dangerous for an enemy navy to even get close. It's just this constant, high-stakes tug of war. For centuries, this game was played with things like cannons and big warships. Pretty straightforward. But today, in the 21st century, the tools they use to control or deny access have gotten way more sophisticated and a whole lot more dangerous. I mean, just look at how this has evolved. It's pretty stark. It all started with the classic naval blockade. Just park your ships in the way. Then things got stealthier with naval mines, creating these invisible barriers. Then the Cold War kicked it up a notch with long-range anti-ship missiles. Suddenly, you could threaten a ship from hundreds of miles away, from land, sea, or air. But today, we're in a whole new era. We've got unmanned systems, drones, flying around, doing surveillance, or even acting as weapons themselves. And now, the fight is moving into totally invisible domains. We're talking about cyber attacks and AI, where an enemy could potentially shut down navigation systems or cause chaos without ever firing a single shot. It's a game changer. So you have this constant one-upmanship with technology, right? You combine that with the incredibly high stakes of who controls the choke point, and what you get is, well, it's a really dangerous psychological trap for every country involved. And that trap has a name. It's called the security dilemma, and it's a real paradox. Here's how it works. Imagine country A puts a bunch of new advanced missile systems on its coast. They say, hey, we're just defending the strait. This is for security. But country B, right next door, doesn't see defense. They see a weapon pointed at them. They see a threat. So what do? They go out and get their own new weapons to counter it. And you end up in this vicious spiral of tension, where every single move a country makes to feel more secure actually ends up making everyone in the region less secure. It's a classic catch-22. And that right there brings us to what might be the single most important takeaway from all of this. Despite all our incredible technology, I'm talking AI, cyber warfare, hypersonic missiles, the whole shebang, none of it can make that 21-mile strait any wider. The ancient, fixed physical reality of geography is still the dominant force here. It still dictates the rules of the game. Technology changes the weapons, sure, but it can't change the map. So, where does that leave us? As we look to the future, we're left with a really big, nagging question. Global trade is evolving, tensions are shifting, but these ancient geographic flashpoints, they're not going anywhere. The Strait of Hormuz has been a strategic prize for empires for centuries, and it's just as critical today. The only real difference now is that the weapons guarding it are infinitely more destructive. So the question isn't if these places matter. We know they do. The real question is, will a single miscalculation set off a global crisis? Can our modern world handle these ancient vulnerabilities, or are we just one step away from disaster?